Welcome back, YouTube family. My name is Emma. Thank you so much for joining me for yet another yoga class. Today's is going to be fun. We're working into a pose that's not a real pose. It's kind of like a made-up yoga pose. It's called soldier pose. I have one other video with this peak pose in it, so I will link that below. It's going to be a little bit different, but you know, there's only so many poses and even so many fake yoga poses to do. So coming up with new content, sometimes I'm like, we're just going to have to redo a pose, but you know, make it a little bit different. And I'm sure you'll get something totally different out of it because it's a different sequence. Your body's feeling different. It's a different environment, all the things. Let's go ahead and we'll get started today on our bellies in a crocodile pose. Stack your palms. Crocodile pose is always a nice alternative if child's pose doesn't feel good on your knees. Let your heels flop out. And here you can really feel if you're breathing deeply by if your belly and your lungs, your rib cage is pushing into the mat or not. So take a moment, just check in with your breath. Take a few rounds of deep breath. Kind of reel in your thoughts, bring your focus within the four corners of your mat. When you're focusing within the four corners of your mat, you're noticing what's happening in the here and now. Gives your mind a little bit less opportunity to wander. It can be pretty challenging, so be gentle with yourself. If the mind wanders, you just bring it back. That's okay. Notice what's happening on your mat, in your body, with your breath. Take your right leg out to the right, half frog pose, toes turned out, and then flex your foot so you feel the inner heel push down and the toes lift. As you do that, you'll feel your right thigh bone push down towards the mat. Allow the pressure of the mat to help soften your left quadricep. One more breath. Lift your head, take your left arm out to the left, straight or cactus shape. Roll onto your left shoulder, step your right foot behind you. Rest your head on the mat or use your right hand as a pillow. Breathe here, 3. If you want a little more sensation, walk your right foot closer to your left hamstring and let your right knee fall out, externally rotating the hip and getting more opening on that left shoulder. Roll back onto your stomach. Take your left hand, reach back for your right foot. So I like the right hand underneath the right shoulder. I'm going to add a little kick back into my right hand. Kind of think like a tiger pose or revolve dancer pose. I can stay here or lift my left leg up and extend my right arm forward for 3, 2, 1. Release. Stack your palms opposite. Opposite hand on top. Take your left leg out to the left. You want your knee in line with your hip and your heel in line with your knee. 90 degrees. Flex your foot so the inner heel goes down and then the toe, the toes, big toe lift up off the mat. As you do that, you'll feel that inner thigh bone and almost the left hip point sink down. One more breath. Lift your head up, take your right arm out to the right, straight or cactus shape. Roll onto your right shoulder, step your left foot behind you. Again, if you want to make this more intense, you can always wiggle your left foot closer to your right hamstring and then kind of let the knee fall outwards. As you do that, there's more weight rolling back, so you'll feel a more intense stretch on your right shoulder. Roll back onto your stomach. Slide both hands under, or actually bend your left knee. Take your right hand and reach back for your left foot. Forgot about this fun part. So I like the left hand under the left shoulder. Start by just kicking back. So you feel opening, a stretch through your quadricep, but soon enough it starts to feel like work. So if this is enough, stay here. Otherwise, lift your right leg and extend your left arm forward for 3, 2, 1. Release, hands under shoulders. Now roll out your shoulders a few times. Next time your shoulders roll back, pick your chest up. Keep a little bend in your elbows. Focus on the inner thighs melting down, less about squeezing your glutes. Toenails heavy, shoulders back. And then sink back, child's pose. Knees wide, forehead down. Arms outstretched, take a breath in. Exhale, empty your lungs. Seal your lips, Ujjayi breath. Shift forward to a tabletop. Bring your knees underneath your hips. Take an in-breath, arch your back, look up. Exhale, round your spine. Allow your breath to set the pace for a few rounds of cat-cow. You'll notice the practice feels more fluid when you link the movement with the breath. Allow the breath to set the pace. There's no rush to get to the next breath or the next pose. 2 more. Try to make your breath audible. Feel the texture in the back of your throat. Neutral spine. Tuck your toes. Squeeze an imaginary block between your knees and float your shins off the mat. Tone your low belly. Try to keep your hips in line with your shoulders. Lengthen your arms. Keep your knees bent. Lift your hips up and back. Press your belly towards your thighs into a bear pose. Feel free to adjust your hands. Add a little grip with your finger pads. Relax your neck. Straighten one of your legs. And then the other. Pedal out your legs here on your own time. You can move fast or slow. You could include shaking your head or swaying your hips side to side as part of those pedals. Relax your jaw, the back of your neck. Take your feet wide, the width of your mat, and walk your hands all the way back to your feet. From here, left hand underneath your nose, bend your left knee, reach your right arm up. Make a fist, roll out your wrist. And then either stay there or half wrap your right arm. Little lean to the left. You can always prop up onto your fingertips. Tailbone going back, crown of the head going forward. Maybe looking up at the ceiling. Take a big inhale. And exhale, release. Right hand down, bend your right knee, reach your left arm up. Roll out your wrist. Stay there or half wrap. Feel like you're tucking the right rib under, peeling the left rib up. Remember, you still want to feel extension through your spine, and then like you're wringing out, twisting around your spine. And release. Left hand down. Imagine your arms are weighted. Your fingers are heavy. Very slowly ragdoll yourself to standing. Feel one vertebrae stack on top of the next. Once you get there, roll your neck out, your shoulders out. Anything that feels a little sleepy or tight, move there. And then we'll meet standing. Feet remain wide. Squeeze your legs. Feel your kneecaps lift. Inhale, reach both arms up overhead. Grab your left wrist and lean over to your right. As you do that, push your hips slightly to the left and imagine breathing into the bottom of your left lung, your entire left side body. Inhale back up through center. Switch your grip and take it to the left. A lot of us have a tendency to arch our backs here, so see if you can sink your bottom ribs down and tone your belly. Push your hips slightly right. Back up center. Bind your hands behind your back. If that doesn't feel good, hands to the low back. Push in behind your heart. Lift your chin. Maybe a lion's breath here. Inhale. Tongue out. Bring yourself back up. Bend your knees a lot and fold forwards. Shake your head no. And yes. Switch your grip. Feel a little lift of your sternum as you breathe in. Feel your chest extend forward and your shoulders back. Try to keep as much of that length as you can as you exhale, fold. Tone your belly, push your thigh bones back. You can think about doing that each time you fold, feeling extension on the inhale and fold on the exhale. Release your hands and lift up halfway. Fold forward. Walk your hands all the way forward to plank pose. Stack your shoulders over your wrists. Adjust your feet so they're hip width. Feel your hip points pull forward and your tailbone scoop towards your heels. Hug your ankle bones in a little bit. Shift your weight forward and lower halfway. Option to drop the knees. Tone your belly, squeeze your thighs. 3, 2, try to press back up high plank even if it doesn't look pretty, and then go back to downward facing dog. Take a full breath in. Open your mouth and sigh. Reseal your lips. You want to feel your breath at the back of your throat. Like you're trying to breathe into the top of your nose, the back of your throat, and the back of your lungs. Lift your heels. Tippy toe. Take as many little baby steps as you can. Squeeze your low belly as you get close. Your big toes will touch when you meet the front of your mat. Lift up halfway, float your hands to your shins. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, rise, reach your arms up and look up. Bring your hands to your heart and down by your side. Inhale, reach your arms up, look towards your thumbs. Exhale, fold forward. Feel free to bend your knees. Lift up halfway, Ardha. Hands on the mat, step back right foot, then left foot. As you lower chaturanga, gaze forward. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog, shoulders away from your ears. Tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Your heels don't need to touch the mat, but they are sinking in that direction. You want to bump them a little bit out so you can't see them behind your ankles. If your heels do touch the mat, try to float your toes. Try to push your thigh bones back. Squeeze your legs. Feel your kneecaps lift. Lift your heels. Look forward. Step with your right foot, then your left foot to the front. Halfway lift. Inhale. Forward fold. Rise, reach, look up. Hands to your heart. And by your side, Samastitihi. Again, inhale, arms up, get light in your toes, look up. Exhale, fold forward. Halfway lift. Hands flat, step back, left foot, right foot, chaturanga to the bottom of your breath. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale back, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. If you feel pressure in your wrists, blocks are great. Try to grip a little bit with your finger pads and push your inner palm down. You'll hopefully feel a little less pressure on your wrists. You want your pointer fingers pointing forward. The wrist crease should be parallel with the front of the mat. I like the hands a little wider than shoulders so you can feel more space between the shoulder blades as you externally rotate your upper arm bones. Lift your heels, look forward, step your left foot, then your right foot to the front, halfway lift, fold forward. Inhale, rise, reach up. Bring your hands to your heart and by your side. Inhale, reach up and lean back this time. Squeeze your legs, pull your belly button back. Exhale, fold forward. Lift up halfway. Plant your hands, step or jump back. Vinyasa. You can always skip these. If they're too much, you can modify. You could take a cat-cow instead or a push-up. There's always options. You don't need an excuse to skip. You don't need to have an injury or have already worked out today. You can also just choose to skip if you would like. Take your feet together, lift your right leg up. Now feel the rest of your body nice and sturdy. Left leg, shoulders, arms strong. Those aren't going to move as you bend your right knee and stack your hips. You're isolating the movement in that right hip as you make some big hip circles. So keep squeezing your left thigh. Avoid dumping into your left shoulder. Go both directions. And then switch. Right foot down. Right leg squeeze. Hands stay where they are. Left leg lift. Bend your knee, stack it. Avoid dumping into the right shoulder, the right side of your waist as you move your left leg around. So you're squeezing the right leg, staying strong and sturdy. Go both directions with those circles. Heels up, look forward, step or jump to the front of your mat. Halfway lift, forward fold. Rise up, reach. Grab your left wrist and lean to your right. Once you get there, step your left foot behind you and push your hips to the left. So you're kind of using your right hip to push your left hip to the left. Back up center, nice and slow. Dive your hands to the floor as you lift your left leg up behind you. Standing L. Option to use a block as well. Focus more on your left leg being straight than your right. Push your right hip crease back. Flex your left toes. You want to feel the outer hip drop, the inner thigh lift, then take a very long step back to a runner's lunge. Left hand close to your right foot, reach your right arm up and twist. Hug your right knee towards your midline. Actively push down into your hand as you reach up. So you want to feel space across your chest, but also between your shoulder blades. If that feels good, look up. Right hand, tailbone, drop your left knee and reach your left arm up. Melt your hips forward. Keep the weight in your right heel, lessen your toes. If you want a little more, right hand to the back of your left hamstring. Take an inhale. Exhale, half split twist. Left hand on the mat, reach your right arm up. If that's too much, you can use a block. You could also wiggle your left hand to the left if you feel wobbly. Flex your right toes, pull your right femur bone back towards the hip socket. If you feel balanced, look up at your right thumb. Great. Right hand down, one breath to standing L. Rebend your right knee, inhale, left leg lift. Exhale, forward fold. Utkatasana, bend your knees, one breath, inhale. Exhale, twist to the right. Right arm reach back. Can you lift your heels in this twisted Utkatasana? Hug the ankle bones in, squeeze your shin bones together. Can you keep your heels lifted as you rise all the way up to standing? Reach both arms up, hug ankle bones in. Drop your heels, grab your right wrist and lean over to the left. Once you get there, step your right foot behind your left foot. Use your left hip to bump your right hip to the right. Inhale back through center. Slowly, hands dive towards the mat, right leg lift, standing L. Focus on squaring your hips. Right hip has to drop, lift up from your heel. And then this left ball of the foot is pushing down. You're pushing your thigh bone back, hip crease back. Long step back, right foot, and twist. The right fingertips should line up with your left toe tips. Reach your left arm up. Spread the shoulder blades, but also your collarbones, so it's an equal push, equal reach. Left hand low back, drop your right knee, reach your right arm up. Sink your hips forward. Soften your right shoulder, maybe left hand back of right hamstring. Take a big inhale. Exhale, half split twist, right hand on mat, block or fingertips. The closer your right hand is to your left shin, the more challenging it will be to balance. Tone your belly. If that feels good, look up. Left hand down, bump it forward. Standing L, one breath. Fold forward. Utkatasana, inhale. Twist left, exhale. Once you get there, can you lift your heels? Hug your ankle bones in. Sit a little bit lower. Can you keep your heels lifted as you rise all the way up? Reach your arms up. Keep your heels lifted as you fold forward. Plant your hands. You might like to try Bakasana, knees towards your armpits. Shift your weight into your hands, your fingertips, look forward. Lift one or both feet, try to get your feet to touch. Step or jump back, Chaturanga. Inhale, Cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale, go back to downward facing dog. Take a full breath in. Exhale. All right, lift your right leg up behind you. Step your right foot forward. Wiggle it a little right and come up to a high lunge crescent warrior. Feel free to keep a little bend in your back knee. Take your right hand to your waist and grab a little bit. Squeeze. Capture your left knee or big toe out in front of you. Stand up nice and tall. The correct placement for your hand is wherever you can stand up tall. So if you're suffering to grab your big toe and leaning over, just grab your knee instead. Imagine you're standing up against a wall behind you. You want both shoulder blades on the wall, so you're not twisting to the right. But we're now going to twist to the left. Your left hand will grab your right hand will grab your left knee or the outside edge of your foot if you're ready for it. Sink your left hip towards the floor. If that's going well, you can look back at your left thumb for 3, 2. Release the grip, but keep the twist, arms wide. Take a long step back to warrior 2. Take a moment to adjust your feet. You're never stuck where you land. You can always adjust your feet. Better to adjust the feet before you get into a pose than after. Straight legs, reverse triangle. Reach your right arm up like you're high-fiving someone or something behind you. Come back through center triangle pose. Shift your hips towards the back of your mat and then reach down. I like to grab the shin or a block. Get light in your toes. Stay there or reach your left arm out in front of you. So the wrist, elbow, and shoulder are all in one line. Your forearms parallel with the floor. Then sweep it towards the front of the mat and you'll feel more length through the left side. From the outer edge of your foot down. Bring your left hand to your waist, press into your feet, and grab a block in your right hand if you've got it. Come all the way up through standing, spin on your heels to face the back of your mat. Your right hand has a block if you've got it. Shorten and stagger your stance so your feet are set up like pyramid pose. You're gonna reach for the back of your mat and then down for revolve triangle. If you've got a block, go inside the foot. If you can easily do hand inside the foot without a block, then you can go outside the foot. Pull your left hip back, maybe reach your left arm up. Firm down the outer edge of your right foot. Only if it feels okay, look up at your left thumb. 3, 2, 1. Look down, grab that block if you've got it. Bump it forward for revolved half moon pose. Right leg lift, keep the twist of your torso to the left. Push the ball of your left foot down. Bend both knees, take your left hand, reach back for your right foot. So a lot of times we do revolve full moon or revolve dancer. Not today. Turn this block to a shorter height if you've got it. I want you to try to kick your right knee out to the right and then try to look under your right armpit as you maybe shift your gaze up towards the ceiling. This is almost soldier pose. So this is a great prep pose. When we will do soldier pose in a little bit, your left arm will be underneath your left leg. So this is just a little bit easier variation. You're trying to get this right knee to point up towards the ceiling, hug your heel towards your butt. Release grip, step right foot behind left foot, crisscross your feet. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold forward. Keep your ankles crossed as you rise all the way up to stand. Lift your left knee up in front of you as well, and then grab a figure four. Cross your left ankle over your right thigh. You can go hands to heart center or hands to your shin. Flex your toes. The toes almost point down, and the outer edge of the foot is pushing back along with the shin. Keep your knees bent for as long as you can. Look down at that block where your right hand was. Like you're moving through a jar of honey, I want you to very, very slowly unwind into a half moon pose. The block is there for your right hand. Once you stack your left hip over your right hip, you can straighten your legs. Squeeze your upper right thigh. Flex your left toes. Start to bend your right knee. Take a long step back, warrior two. Straighten your right leg and turn your toes in. Bind your hands behind your back, lift your sternum, inhale. Forward fold, Prasarita Padottanasana. The bind is great for your shoulders. If it doesn't feel good, release your hands to the floor. Again, every inhale, feel your sternum pull forward. Every exhale, a little bit more fold. Release your hands to the mat, lift up halfway. Walk around to the front of your mat, lizard pose. Now, lizard pose is going to be our last pose before we attempt soldier pose. So I'll break everything down in steps. If there's a step you can't do just yet, don't move on because the pose won't make sense. So you can come back to the video or back to the tutorial as you feel ready for it, but don't try to force the pose. It's just something, a fun challenge. It doesn't mean you're good at yoga, bad at yoga. That's not a thing. So it doesn't mean anything if you can or can't do the pose. It's just a fun challenge. All right, so if you're in lizard pose, you'll take your left arm under your left leg like you were gonna go to flying splits or get ready for a bind. You'll step your right foot up so your feet are kind of like a pyramid pose now, but a little bit wider. You're gonna keep this left leg on like a backpack. Plant your left hand firmly. I like to use the thumb and pointer finger to kind of cup that left heel. Bump your right hand forward. I'm gonna shift my weight into my right hand and my left foot. Those are gonna be my points of contact, and my right foot's gonna lift off the mat. Hug your right heel towards your butt. Then this left hand is gonna reach back for the inside of your right foot. As you grab the foot, that's when you start to straighten your left leg, point your right knee up, and drop your gaze. So again, this is similar to what we did facing the back of the mat, but now the left shoulder, the left arm is underneath the left leg, so it adds an extra challenge. It's a little bit more work on the hamstring. Slowly start to release that. Plant your hands, right foot long step back. Right hand on the mat, roll to the outer edge of your foot and the outer edge of your left foot. Take a nice sunrise lunge. All 10 toes are pointing towards the left side, long side of your mat. Slowly start to step your left foot behind you for wild thing. Push your hips to the sky. 3, 2, slow, flip it around, pigeon pose. Left knee up behind your wrist. Should feel pretty nice. Figure four is an option as well. Even out the weight in your hips. So you don't want to be rolling all the way onto this left hip. That's not going to do a lot for you. If you need to, you want to wiggle your left foot back and point your toes. Start there, and then gradually maybe you wiggle your foot a little bit more forward. Your shin does not need to get parallel with the front of the mat. Focus on squaring your hips, getting even pressure in your hips. Two more breaths. Walk your hands back underneath your shoulders. Tuck your right toes. Step back, vinyasa, or just go to down dog. Now I'm probably going to leave my block at the back of the mat because that's the only place we've really used it, but you're welcome to adjust. Left leg lifted up. Step your left foot forward. Wiggle your left foot a little bit to the left and come up to a high lunge, crescent warrior. Little bend in the back knee is great. Deep bend, left knee. Left hand to the waist. Capture your right knee or big toe out in front of you. You're focusing on standing up tall, straightening and sturdying up this left leg. Back of your skull lift, tailbone drop. And then we're going to twist. Left hand to the knee or the outer edge of the foot. Right hip sinking, shoulders away from ears. That all feels good. Look back at your right thumb. 3, 2, 1. Keep the twist, but release your grip. Take your arms wide. Then slow step back, warrior 2. Feel free to adjust your feet. Get your heel to arch alignment now, then straighten your legs, reverse triangle. Come back through center and exhale down, Trikonasana, triangle pose. If you're dumping forward, walk your hand further up your shin. Imagine you're standing in between, like 2 panes of glass is what I always say, but it could be anything. In between a canyon, in between a wall, 2 walls, whatever it is. You don't want to be arching your back and flailing your arm back, but you also don't want to be dumping forward. Press into your right hand to your waist, press into your feet and rise all the way up through standing, pivot on your heels to face the back. Your block is already there likely. Shorten up your stance a little bit so your feet are staggered, setting up like you would for pyramid pose. Reach up, forward, and then down. It's important to get that length first. If you're using a block, go inside your foot. If you can go inside your foot without a block and still get the twist, then go outside. Maybe reach your right arm. Keep pulling your right hip crease back. If all of this feels okay and it feels okay on your neck, then look up at your right thumb. 3, 2, 1. Look down, grab your block, bump it forward, and lift up to your revolve half moon pose. Lift your left leg, flex your foot. Keep the twist of your torso to the right. Now we're going to do that modification to soldier pose. So I need to bend both knees, take your right hand, reach for the inside edge of your left foot. I like to turn this block to the smaller height. And then I'm going to start to kick my left knee out to the left and up towards the ceiling. As I do this, it's almost like I'm pulling my heel towards my butt. And I'm going to try to turn to the left. So I'm still getting that nice opening in the hip, and I'm still getting an awesome hamstring stretch, just not as intense. Release that grip, crisscross your feet, left behind right. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Press into your feet and rise all the way up to standing. Once you get there, lift your right knee up. Inhale. Exhale, figure 4. Flex your toes, push your shin bone back. And then again, your block is already pretty set up for you. As slow as you can, like you're moving through a jar of honey. Keep these knees bent as you start to unwind your right leg. Dive your left hand towards the floor and open up towards Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. Once your hips are stacked, straighten out your legs. Make sure your left toes don't change direction. They're still pointing towards the back of your mat. Stack your hips, stack your shoulders, again, in between 2 imaginary panes of glass. Start to bend into your left knee. Take a step back to warrior 2. Turn your left toes in, bring your hands to your waist. Inhale, squeeze, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Your elbows point up as you squeeze your belly. Notice you have to engage a lot more here. You're not using the help of your arms to pull you forward. Tone your belly, firm your upper thighs, roll your weight a little forward. Focus on the exhales. Lift your shoulders away from your ears. One more breath. Lift up halfway. Walk around to the front of your mat, both hands inside your right foot, lizard pose. So as you, sink into your lizard pose, you can always drop your back knee. Again, I'll explain the pose. So it's a really big stretch on your hamstring. We kind of already did it at the back of the mat after the half moon pose. The only difference is now you're kind of adding an extra factor. Your right arm's gonna be underneath your right leg. So if you're ready to give it a shot, from your lizard pose, you wanna make sure you can get your right shoulder underneath your right leg, like you're gonna bind your hands or go for flying splits. Then shorten up your stance like you would for pyramid pose. I like to use the thumb and pointer finger of the right hand to kind of grab this right heel. I'm gonna bump my left hand forward. Now you can use fingertips or a flat palm, but you wanna feel pretty stable with your right foot and your left hand. Start to shift your weight forward, like you're toppling forward. Lift your left foot, hug your left heel towards your butt. To me, the hardest part is the right hand reaching for the inner foot. Once you have that, kicking and opening up just makes the pose feel a little bit better. Try to turn your chest to the left and point your left knee towards the ceiling. 3, 2, 1. Slowly start to bring yourself down. Left foot long step back if it's not already. Left hand on the mat, roll to the outer edge of both feet and open up kind of towards the right side of your mat for this sunrise lunge. Feel that nice stretch on your outer right hip. Slow, flip it around, right foot step behind you, push your hips up. Make sure your left shoulder's over your left wrist. Take a big inhale. And exhale, flip it around, pigeon pose. Always the same alternatives to pigeon pose if this doesn't work out. Remember, the goal is even weight in your hips, not just jumping onto this right side. This isn't going to be doing a lot for me. You can always place a block or bolster underneath your right hip to help even out the weight. Two more breaths. Slowly start to walk your hands back under your shoulders. Tuck your left toes and step back for your final vinyasa. Clear out your spine, reset. The down dog should feel pretty nice. I guess it shouldn't feel a certain way. It feels however it feels. To me, down dog feels really nice right here. Lift your heels, look forward, step or jump through to a seat. When I say the poses should feel a certain way, I don't necessarily mean you're doing it wrong if they feel a different way. I mean the target of that pose is to feel a stretch in a certain place. But whatever your experience is totally valid. It's not that you're doing it wrong or you're inflexible. That's just what I mean when I say you should feel a way in a pose. Let's do Purvottanasana. Hands behind us, feet or legs extended. When you do Purvottanasana, reverse plank, think about your inner thighs spiraling together and down. You're pointing your toes, trying to get your toes closer to the mat. Push into your hands, lift your hips up. If that's too much, take a reverse table or a bench pose. Push in behind your heart. Maybe drop your head back and take another lion's breath. Inhale, tongue out. Slowly bring your hips down. Wiggle your butt back, counter stretch, Paschimottanasana. Flex your feet, reach your arms up, and fold forward. Nice calming pose. Just like when we forward fold standing, and I encourage you to bend your knees to get that extension through your spine. Then gradually fold, same thing here. So bend your knees, get that extension through your spine so you're not rounding your back, extension, then fold. And gradually, maybe you push the thigh bones down so the legs are straight, but that's not the goal of the pose. The goal is flat spine. Slowly walk your hands back towards you. Lie all the way down onto your back and take your legs overhead for plow pose. If that does not feel good, take your legs straight up, waterfall pose. If you're going plow pose, walk your elbows in, take your hands to your low back. From there, you have the option to lift your legs up, shoulder stand, or again, stay in your waterfall pose. Maybe you take your legs overhead again and bend your knees this time. Karnapidasana, hug your knees towards your temples. I like to grab the outside edges of the mat. Binding the hands is nice too, as long as you're not hyperextending your elbows. If you are hyperextending, I mean, it's not necessarily saying you're going to injure yourself. I just feel more action through the pose as I grab the outside edges of the mat. Slowly ragdoll yourself all the way down, one vertebrae at a time. Fingers underneath your butt, point your toes, puff up your chest, drop your head back. Take a big inhale, tongue out. Drop your head towards the mat, hug your right knee into your chest. Squeeze your knee towards your armpit. Then take your right knee across your body and twist. Unwind. Both knees hug in. Keep your left leg, extend your right leg, squeeze your knee towards your armpit, and then twist, take it across. One more breath. Bring that left knee back through center. Hug both knees in, squeeze nice and tight. Extend your legs, toes flop out, arms by your side. You might wiggle your shoulder blades underneath you. Adjust your body, adjust your clothing to a place of comfort. See if you can observe your body without engaging it. So relax your muscles. See if you can observe your breath without controlling it. Release your breath control. And see if you can observe your thoughts without controlling them. Try to relax your mind. And when the mind wanders, we just go through that again. Relax your body. Soften your breath. Relax your mind. Relax your body, soften your breath, and relax your mind. Take a few moments of stillness here in Shavasana to fully receive the benefits of your physical practice. Please pause this video if you have longer time, if you have more time to stay. Otherwise, I invite you to make your way out when you're ready, wiggling your fingers, your toes, and becoming aware of your breath once again. Stretch your arms overhead, and I'll have you roll onto your right or left side and pause there. Keep your eyes closed. Now, the goal of yoga is not to do soldier pose, really not to do any pose in particular. It's not to be stronger or to be more flexible. Those are all byproducts of the practice of yoga. The goal is, stillness, meditation. But meditation can be very intimidating. If you just set a goal to meditate for 20 minutes, it's really, really hard for most people. So when you meditate, you have to concentrate. It requires concentration on one thing. Usually that's your breath. Maybe it's a mantra or a thought. But when we do yoga, we're concentrating on our breath, we're concentrating on our body, all contained within the four corners of the mat. So you might feel that when you're doing this practice, you feel more present, you feel almost like you're in meditation, a moving meditation. And that's the goal of yoga, is to reach that space where you're in concentration. Even if you're moving while doing it, focusing on your breath, focusing on the pose, your mind is at ease, it's present. And then when we lie down into Shavasana, maybe we can attain a few minutes of that stillness where we still feel present in the moment without giving the mind so much to think about before it starts to wander. Gradually make your way up to a comfortable seat and bring your hands to heart center. Anjali Mudra, take a deep breath in. Big exhale. Thank you for choosing to practice with me, for putting the energy and time into yourself, your physical and your mental health. From my heart to yours, namaste. Thank you for watching my videos, for practicing with me. I hope you learned a lot, maybe physically, and a little bit more about what yoga is and at least what it is to me, and maybe that resonates with you, maybe not. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Yeah, you know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you back next week.